Good day, and here is your breaking news update on the deeply troubling security situation in Nigeria.
You're welcome to the Pulse
What
of
may
African
sound like a
Community. I hope
moment
you're
of
doing great
relief
today.
has, for
If you're
many,
joining us for the first
ignited
time,
a
don't
fresh
hesitate
wave
to like,
of alarm
share, and
and
subscribe to stay informed
uncertainty.
and connected to
On
Africa's most
Sunday,
important
November
news reports.
23rd,
Your engagement will help this
2025,
video to reach
President
more people.
Bola
Thank you very
Tinubu
much.
publicly confirmed what many Nigerians across the country had been praying for. The 38 worshippers who were abducted during a live service at the Christ Apostolic Church in Eruku, Kwara State, have been released. Families erupted with joy, communities celebrated, and emotions ran high as these individuals were reunited with their loved ones. According to the president, the release came thanks to efforts by security agencies, but crucially, no further details were given. There was no announcement of a firefight, no dramatic hostage rescue raid, and no public confirmation that the kidnappers were captured or neutralized.
Hi guys, President announced yesterday that all 38 people that were kidnapped in the Kwara church have regained their freedom. Also that 50 out of the over 300 people kidnapped in Niger have also returned home. There was no mention of any arrests being made, no mention of whether any ransom was paid, no mention of anyone being apprehended and brought to book. This does not cut it. It is just not enough.
This absence of information has raised more questions than it has answered. That's where things get complicated. While the release is undoubtedly welcome news, the way it happened is shrouded in mystery. The government offered no public account of a rescue operation, no gun battle, no arrests, no hostage extraction operation reported. The victims simply reappeared, and the messaging turned immediately to celebration. This has sparked a wave of skepticism. Across social media and in public discourse, many Nigerians are now asking, was a ransom paid? If so, how much? And what does this mean for future kidnappings? These are not idle questions. Paying ransom would mean that funds are flowing back into the coffers of criminal networks. That money could be used to buy more weapons, recruit more fighters, and plan even bolder attacks. Simply put, a ransom economy rewards criminals, not justice. Critics argue that while reunification is critical, what would have inspired more public confidence was hearing that the criminals were captured or defeated, not just let go with their human trophies.
Because this church abduction and release comes amid a much larger and more alarming pattern of mass kidnappings in Nigeria. Just days before, on Friday, November 21st, 2025, heavily armed men invaded St. Mary's Catholic School in the Papiri community, Agwara local government area of Niger State. The Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, now says that 303 students and 12 teachers were abducted. Initial reports had estimated about 215 people taken, but after a full verification process, the updated number is nearly 315 people, according to CAN. The attack struck at around 2 a.m., while many pupils slept in dormitories. There is a glimmer of hope. 50 of the kidnapped students reportedly escaped between Friday and Saturday, according to the Christian Association of Nigeria. These children, some of whom had to travel through dense forest, reunited with their families, though they didn't immediately return to school. Yet the situation remains grim. CAN reports that 253 children and 12 staff members are still being held by their captors. The school has since released a detailed list of the remaining abductees: 236 primary pupils, 3 children of staff, 14 secondary students, and 12 school workers. This brazen abduction didn't happen in a vacuum. Niger State authorities say they had already received intelligence warnings from the Department of State Services, DSS, about increased risk in the area. Despite that, St. Mary's School reportedly reopened its boarding facilities without notifying or getting clearance from the state government. Now, the Niger State government has launched a formal probe. Officials are investigating why the school's management reopened dormitories after a clear security directive. Some sources suggest possible sabotage and finger-pointing is growing. On the ground, the security response appears to be active but cautious. The police, military components, and tactical units have been deployed to comb surrounding forests and trace the abducted students. This is not an isolated incident. Earlier in the week, there was another abduction in Kebbi State, where 25 schoolgirls were kidnapped. That same week also saw a church attack in Kwara State, where dozens were taken. These events paint a picture of security forces overstretched or under-resourced, facing a rising tide of well-armed criminal gangs who seem increasingly confident in the ability to strike soft targets, like schools and places of worship. Part of the problem, experts say, is that the lack of visible consequences for kidnappers fuels more violence. When kidnappers successfully demand ransom and walk away, the message is loud and clear. This works for us.
It was just a sudden act, suddenly, and a terrifying act. Because that evening, after like 30 minutes to the program, we started the program by, I think, around 5. So like 30 minutes to the program, after all the praises, we just heard gunshot. Even to my own perspective, I didn't know it was gunshot. I think it was just sparkling of some wire. But by the time we get, they surrounded the whole church. Even some people, they begin to narrate that they are seeing drop of blood everywhere.
Now, from that Tuesday to today, when you are released, what is the situation right there inside the bush?
It was unimaginable, because when we got there, we really know that it was a dominated area by these evil people called bandits. Even they have the courage to tell themselves that we are bandits, and they make us to know that there's no one that can just slip away without being caught. And with what we see, nobody can escape. From that place they have dominated. They've knew all the routes surrounding all those bushes within Kwara and other states.
On one hand, the release of the 38 church member is unquestionably good news. Their families can finally breathe again, at least for now. But the silence around how they were freed is deeply alarming. For many, that silence isn't just a communication gap. It's possibly a red flag that state power is still not fully asserting control. And then there's the school crisis. More than 300 children and staff were abducted in one night. That's horrifying. The fact that 50 have already escaped is a ray of hope, yes, but more than 250 still remain in captivity. That's untenable. The government probe is necessary, but Nigeria needs more than investigations. It needs structural reform in how it protects vulnerable communities. Relying on ransom to free victims is a ticking time bomb. Paying off criminals doesn't restore security. It perpetuates the cycle. Bandits grow richer, bolder, and more powerful. They see kidnapping not as a crime, but as a profitable venture. Nigeria's security agencies must demonstrate that they can not only negotiate releases, but also dismantle the networks behind these crimes. Otherwise, every school, every church, and every soft target remains at risk. Citizens deserve more than just momentary relief. They deserve a system, a security architecture that prevents these atrocities, catches the criminals, and stops the bleeding. Without that, this latest release may just be the latest chapter in a story that's far from over. Thank you for watching. Please join the conversation. What do you think Nigeria should do next? How can the country truly break this cycle of violence and kidnapping? If you found this report insightful, please do well to like, subscribe, and comment to the Pulse of Africa. Share your thoughts and stay safe.